my assistant came in and cleaned up and I can't find anything. And that's the way Bob was. Oh, I know where this stuff is.
Don't touch anything.
Yeah.
Was there a favorite set design that he created that you're aware of, or was
All
there
of
just so
them.
many that?
There were so many, and you know, one of the things that I really regret over the years is that we never took pictures, just, we had cast pictures. You know, and pictures of the whole show, which included the set, but to just take a picture of the set, you know, would have been something that I think he would have liked. I will say one of the things he was most proud of was when we did Anything Goes at the library in '82. And he built an extension onto the stage of the library of 3 feet, because Lois Cantor was directing, she had to have tap dancers. So, he actually built a 3-foot extension onto the stage. And, you know, our relationship with the library during our 30 years there was
Rocky.
rock. That's a good word for it, yeah,
Uh-huh.
because it was, you know, it
Up and
depended
down.
on who was with the administrator and how they felt and how bad, how bad we were, when we were there, but, he was gonna take this down, and the library board had a special meeting, voted on it, liked it so much that they wanted to keep it. So I know that was one of the things that he was most proud of outside of just building, you know, a set, was that, you know, he built it obviously well enough that they didn't have to do anything to it, and, yeah.
Another one was All My Sons, and when he built that house on the stage.
Yeah.
And when you walked in there, it was like, there's a house on the, in the library. And someone did a painting of it, and then they gave it to, and they had it sitting up in the entryway of the library when you came in for the show that night. And we still have it at the house that they gave it to them, and, but, that was just, I can remember I'm just sitting there and looking at it and thinking, wow. It was amazing.
Yeah, and it's hard, you know, so many times, especially when you get new people, you know, building sets and everything, they put so much work into it, it's so elaborate, and it's up there for 2 weeks, and then you take it down. You know, and that's some of the hardest, that's sometimes the hardest thing to face about theater, is that everything is temporary, but that's
Some of
the way
it's
it
in
is.
our garage.
Yeah. And you can always find something, you know, we need this and we don't have it, well, I can go to Assumption and get that, or I got that in my garage, or, you know, and they would do the same thing in return. When Assumption needed something, he'd come over and say, well, I'm gonna take this over to, you know, over to there for their set, and he created this collaboration on his own, you know, not just between us and Assumption, but many other areas of the community, and that was the spirit we wanted to keep going. You know, he helped build this theater, he was on the board when we had our capital campaign and built this theater, and Bob's voice on the board was very often the voice of reason, and, you know, bringing a lot of us down to earth during some pretty chaotic times. You know, I looked to him when I needed that voice of reason. You know, Bob, come in here and talk to me about this, because it was just, you know, straight line, this is point A to point B, and, yeah, I really appreciated that.
He was like that even more recently too, as a board member, because there would be, I mean, when you have a group of people together trying to figure out a path forward, reaching a consensus is always a challenge, and Bob didn't say much. He was really, at least at the meetings, you know, with this, you know, current group, he was pretty quiet. But when if you would ask him, or if he was pretty passionate about something, then he was, like you said, he was the voice of reason. He really, he'd bring you down to earth and say, oh yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, and I have to say, I was telling Patsy before, one of the first times, well, that I worked with Bob was at the library many, many years ago, and, you know, I thought he was a very grouchy, intimidating man who was building sets, and I was bound and determined to help him and just keep my mouth shut and do that, and I did, and I think that started our relationship going, which was good, but I had many directors when I was in the Mike Corbett job come up to me, and, you know, Bob's designing my set. I have some changes. Could you tell Bob that I'm like, no, you go talk, because he would do anything. and if it wasn't, if you didn't get it right, or he didn't get it right, he might growl about it, but he would change it, and he wanted it to be perfect for you, but yeah. I remember one coming in and saying, I'm just uncomfortable going to talk to Bob. And I would say, you know what? He's a teddy bear, go talk to him, he'll do it for you. So, yeah.
That's great.
Well, a special thank you to Patsy too. Everybody knows when you have an artist in your life that it is a lot of time and devoted hours to the project. So I know there was a sacrifice involved in you and your giving as well at the time.
It truly wasn't a sacrifice because Bob was, when he was here working, he was happy. He loved doing it, and it was a joy to just, the only complaint I had was the one time when you had the leaky roof in the dressing room.
Yes.
And he went up there and nobody knew he was up there.
Right.
And when I heard about that, I was livid. I says, Bob, you have to tell people I says, why, you were up there all by yourself?
Yeah.
And he says, well, I wasn't I says, yeah, I know you weren't gonna fall, but still tell somebody next time. Yeah. Other than that,
Well, between
it
you
was
and
all-
Chuck Buchanan, you know, and,
Oh.
you know, the two of them, for one thing, they communicated telepathically, so, we'd be sitting at a table with them, and they would just look at each other and decide something, I don't know what it was, and the rest of us were like, you know, I don't know what this is all about, but you guys, you know, can communicate with each other, but the two of them did very much the same thing, I mean, I got to the point where I said, do I have to put shot collars on you, so you're up on ladders by yourself in the theater, you're, you know, up on the roof, you're doing this stuff that, yeah, you don't think you're gonna fall, but you just might, so.
Chuck's name, I'll never forget Fiddler on the Roof, and he was the director, I
Yes.
believe. And he kept asking for one more thing and one more, you know, Bob would think he'd be done and be one more thing. So finally Chuck was afraid, he wanted one more bench, and he was afraid to ask Bob to do one more, so he built it himself. And then they were practicing and it
Collapse.
collapsed.
Yeah.
And right away Chuck is, Bob didn't build that one. He didn't wanna.
That's funny.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, well, those two were quite an act
They
when they
had
were
a
together.
fun time.
Arguing about how to build flats, you know, and Chuck wanted to do it one way and Bob wanted to do it another way. And Chuck kept saying, I'm the one who taught you how to do it, and I don't know why you're not doing it my way, and Bob's like, well, you taught me wrong, so I Yeah. Well,
I can't thank you enough. When Tim came and told me what you were gonna do, it just blew me away. I couldn't think of a more perfect way to honor Bob than this. Cause this was like a second home to him, truly. He enjoyed every minute of it, and it was I can't express how grateful I am for you naming this the Bob Kell Workshop, because
Well, we're gonna think of Bob every time we walk.
What else could we
Some
name
of
it?
us
Yeah.
will be there, so.
and I'm sure the people at the theater are gonna be like me. If Bob was here, he would. And also when you go around and you see things through here, you're gonna look at it, and Mike and I, when
it's all
Mike has
over.
been helping me so much cleaning out Bob's workshop. And we come along things and we just shake our head about some of the things that we're finding. It's an adventure, isn't it?
They're in here too.
Yes, and I know that.
They go in the cat, what the heck is that? I don't know, must have been something that Bob made. And it had a specific purpose and it worked, but we don't know what it is.
There's a stick in my garage, big tall stick, and it has a notch on the top of it. And Mike looked at that, and I think you were gonna throw it away, weren't you? Yeah, and I says, that's for taking the wreath up and down.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
every
great.
little thing.
I'm
Everything
pretty
had a
sure
purpose.
it isn't gonna work for me that way.
Well,
Patsy,
he
Patsy.
never,
Oh, go ahead.
No.
There you go. Oh, you go.
I was just gonna say, we never got to give him a round of applause in the theater, so I think we should do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, how awesome. Patsy, Patsy, did you mention, did you need any help over at your place? Is there stuff that
Oh.
Bob kept that you wanna send back over here or something, or? Did you say there was a car, a set piece that was?
Oh, if you want
I
a
don't-
car,
Do you know the car?
it was from Greece.
Do you?
Oh,
Is it-
Greece.
Was
Greece,
it
and
as-
it's, I think it was Assumption.
Assumption would be, yeah.
And it's a car, and it's hanging on, if you ever need a car, I have a car. And the moon that he made for that he had such a terrible time with that moon, had it hanging in the air for moon over
Whatever Buffalo was it?
Buffalo,
Yeah.
and it was that silver moon. If you ever need that again, that's in the garage. Otherwise, a lot of it is, but those pieces couldn't go yet.
Right.
That car, he really liked that once he got, they painted it so well. You know, he did but once they painted it, he was
Yeah.
just like, wow, this is so cool. And he couldn't part with it, so it's in the
Wow.
garage. So if you ever do Grease,
That's a reason, it might be a reason to do Greece.
Oh, I mean, you
Really?
could use it for any
Yeah.
kind of a fifties show.
Yeah.
right,
car.
right.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to know that if another organization in town, like the high school or, is gonna
They
do
must
something.
know it's there.
Yeah.
Of course, the people
Stamp
at
change.
Assumption, it's all
Yeah.
changed, it's different people, so they might know.
I think Nakusa did Grease this last year,
Oh, did
the
they?
high school, I think so.
Did they?
That's what they did.
Well, you could, maybe rent that out, you put that
Yeah.
out.
That's a great idea. Well, thank you, everybody, for coming. I think it was great. I'm glad you appreciate it,
Oh, I do.
Patsy.
You can't know.
And that was the original,
And
the
Bob
family,
would
the
be,
family was the first thing that came to mind, what we could do for you and your family. And I'm glad that we were able to do something meaningful, and
Bob would be so touched by this.
That's awesome.
He would be.
that's awesome,
It would have meant so much.
that's awesome.
How will you ever replace this man that I hear about?
There's about 3 of us. Seriously, I think between you and I and Jeff
Yeah.
right now are trying to fill Bob's shoes,
Yeah,
and it's tough.
yeah, it sure is.
He had this ability to, I can remember Linda coming, bowling, I can't think of the whole name of the show. And she wanted a grave.
More
that-
fun than bowling.
More fun than bowling. And she wanted a grave and people to pop out of the grave.
Yes,
Yep.
Up and reuse it every night.
yes.
And he came home and he said, boy, this is what she wants. I'm not sure I know how to do that. And then it didn't take him but a little bit and he says, I got an idea. And he got rubber inner tube and dang if it didn't work. It just worked and it worked so good.
Yeah.
And I can remember the kids sitting, Sarah and Susie at that time, and they were sitting there, and when they popped up out of there, they were just like,
Again!
We don't have hydraulics, we don't have, a lot of wing space, we don't have fly space above, and so there are things, what was the other one, the one Linda directed twice? I can't remember, but required like somebody to go down a trap door. Well, we don't have that in our stage, so the stuff that he did to create those effects that, so that we could do those shows on whatever little stage we had was just phenomenal.
I bet Susie remembers that trap door
I
because
played with that a lot.
the kids always had to sort screws.
I still
They all
And
had to
nails.
sort screws.
That was our job.
They all had to sort screws, and so they were there doing things and helping them out all the time. And she was playing with this trap door for weeks. And then we go to the show, and they had that billowy,
Yeah.
with the fan, and
Yeah.
it was so incredible and
Yeah.
so awesome. And Susie was sitting right on there, she says, that's how that is. It just like dawned on her that that's what that was for.
Yeah, all those effects that were amazing, and you could, as a director, you could go to Bob and say, this is kind of sort of what I want, I
And then
have
he'd
no
come up
clue how
with
to
it.
do with it, let me think about it, he'd take it home, work it over in his mind, and come back and figure out the problem for you. Yeah. So, really miss him a lot.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you.
Right.
Anything else?
No, anybody else have any stories or anything? I think there's so many of them, it's hard to think of one, because there's so many.
It's a good thing Linda Garsky and Chuck Buchanan and Chuck Willard and some of these people aren't here. We'd be here all
Oh,
day.
yeah.
We'd be here all day.
Yeah.
I remember one day Grandpa picked me up from school because I had a headache, and he dragged me down here. He said, "Sit down and sort screws." So I started sorting screws, and then Grandpa pulls me over and he's like, "I need you to hold this up." And then for like 3 or 4 hours while Grandma was at work, I was sitting there holding stuff up and moving stuff around and just
That'll teach
picking
you to
everything
get
up.
a headache.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, Justin, don't mind about that. An Assumption,
It was
they were
fun.
doing Sound and Music, and Bob had built this real tall, a 2-story thing. And he decided this 12-foot flat wasn't in the right place. And the kids are downstairs playing basketball, you could hear them behind the curtain. And instead, he's having me move this thing, and I don't like heights a whole lot anyway. And moving this 12, and I says, Bob, it's gonna crash, it's gonna crash. And he, no, it'll be okay, we got this. And I says, you know, there's lots of big kids down there.
Yeah,
I know,
just grab a kid.
make them taller, it would work better. No, we got this. And sure enough, we got it, and nothing crashed, but, oh my goodness, I was sure one of us were going over that.
Yeah, he had a little angel on his shoulder too,
Yeah.
when it came to stuff like that,
Oh, yeah.
because there were so many times that he could have hurt himself really seriously.
No. You always figured that's the way, something, he's gonna get hurt that way.
Well, thanks everybody for coming, and have a great day, and stop by anytime, and help yourself to a coffee or anything on the way out if you'd like one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming, thanks for stopping by.